Okay. I always have to go over here to this other screen. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to Mo Knows featuring me, Monica Mo Justice. Let me just change a couple of my settings. I'll get one of those later. I'm just changing a couple of my settings, so give me a second. The other one is going to be that one. It's always good to take a day off and figure out what you're going to do and just take some time to reflect on a couple of things. All right. I, the reason why I was quiet over this weekend is because I was taking some time to go through the charges in the case and take them out of the indictment and put them into my own 4-page letter, but to try to figure out what the overall case was about. Um, and I'm doing a good job with I did a good job with it. I'll be able in the future to sort it into different categories if I needed to. I could sort it by different I could just actually just sort the information and get things at my fingertips. What I found interesting overall was that the counts that are in the actual indictment, so counts 2 through 65, are also outlined in detail in the overt act section, so you get to connect with it. So I want to start off with like the untimely or the death of Donovan Thomas, right? In that incident, there were also victims that were collateral damage. And maybe Donovan Thomas himself was collateral damage, depending on um whose facts you listen to as to why the event occurred, right? Because a prosecution case doesn't have to provide you with a motive as to why something took place. And the reason why I'm focusing on the fact that there was collateral damage because other people were hit during that assault. They did not lose their life, but nevertheless, they were also injured as a result of the incident. And what is important is that them being hit by a stray did not bring them into the indictment. They're not part of anything that says attempted. They're in the they're in the overt acts as being an um attempted murder but they're not in the actual document because murder itself has no statute of limitations, but other incidents do, right? Um, so I'm just annoyed listening to people scream from the rafters, free this person, free that person, end this now. This is unjust, right? Which are fair cries, but they're not addressing the whole disenfranchisement at this moment. They're not, they're looking for a justice that has been prescribed as this trial is unfair. So because this trial is unfair, we need this trial to end and end right now. And there are consequences for ending right now. And I think that's the phase that we're seeing play itself out, or we're not seeing play itself out at the present time, because everybody involved has went on radio silence. And I don't think that is by I don't I believe that is by design, that people are now being quiet because they can no longer manipulate the social media platforms that they were manipulating to get part of this story out. If anybody is really paying attention to testimony, like the jurors are supposed to be paying attention to testimony, you would start to see that some of the themes expressed have now come to fruition. You're starting to see where things get connected. Why you have one witness that testifies and tells you that they collected the evidence, or one witness that comes on and tells you there was a call, right? That's the 911 operator. Then you meet with the next witness, who's the officer who responded to the scene, right? In a court case, you have to put each of those elements, each of those parts of what happened on the stand to testify, so that the evidence gets put into the record and before the people. I've heard people be frustrated with the process as they're listening to the court case, and they're frustrated with the process of people having to show their evidence step by step and putting it in. These are the unpleasant moments of a trial, but these are also the steps of a trial. And with that, there are times when the other side, which is the defendant, get to um, object to what's being presented, um, how it's being put in. Um, but I think there is just, as I listen to people opine on why this is unfair, I just don't agree with them, because I don't believe they're looking at the process for what it's worth. Today, it's free so and so. Today, we're seeing a corrupt, or what people have deemed to be a corrupt. Hey, Joy. Hey, Lady XO. That we're seeing a corrupt administration of government, right? But what happens when the cameras are gone and the focus is off of the YSL, these highly paid? No, I'm not even gonna blame it on them for being highly paid. This level of the trial. See, the problem is you looking at, from my perspective, not anybody else's perspective, from my perspective, I'm seeing prosecutors who should not be prosecuting this type of case in the way in which, in the manner in which they are doing it. Their ethics have come to the forefront. The judge that people want to recuse now and get off the stand, she has tried her best since coming into this case to try to cure the mistakes. And this is how I see it, to avoid a mistrial without prejudice. I believe she could have called one of those since the beginning, but it just would have given the prosecution another attempt at the same defendant. And what would they do? They would be able to prosecute the case again from a different stance, remove all of the things that they've done wrong right now. They would just get a second bite at the apple. Who wants to give people who are intentionally prosecuting folks by any means necessary the opportunity to intentionally prosecute those folks again? And what happens to the next group of that are not Jeffrey Williams, the next group of defendants that are not well without the money to put forward a year-long case? What happens to those people dealing with these same prosecutors? So when you see people protesting for stop this injustice here in this case, I have to throw in the towel and say, why aren't people yelling, stop this injustice, period, with the type of leadership you have in place? This is more than just removing Fani Willis and saying, oh, there's an election coming up and it's they're gonna vote her back in office and it's just gonna be business as usual. The optics of this whole thing is the optics of this entire trial is crazy. It's crazy. People have taken out of context what the judge said. People have taken out of context some of the things that the prosecution has said. But the question comes down to, do you want this type of justice in your backyard? Do you want to live in a community, because people have choices, right? People wouldn't want to live in a place where people are just running around shooting at each other, randomly just running outside shooting at each other. The case is crazy. Someone asked me earlier my opinion. Well, someone asked me directly. I don't see where um, Jeffrey Williams has done anything that they presented anything that he's done. And I said, no, I beg to differ. I've seen XYZ be presented, and it was presented in a way that I believe he was present. There was also the incident at the mall, which I don't even know why that was brought in, but to show that, to show some, to show that he was intimidating the mall cop. I'm sure the statute of limitations is up on that too. But I gave a breakdown of what I saw that came in as evidence and how I processed it, and what I thought of it. And of course, it differentiates from people that are like, oh, just shut this down right now because this case is wrong. The injustice will not be, the injustice is not what's going on in this case at the present time. It is the ability for this to happen again to another set of Black men, beyond the ones that are on trial right now. That this kind of attitude is prevalent in that district attorney's office. I'm going to stand on what I believe. I strongly believe that the prosecution listened to hours and hours of some kind of telecommunication evidence of people talking and openly communicating about things that occurred in their life and activities that they engaged in. And a eavesdropper never hears anything good, took that information and ran it up, tried to connect the dots, said, it sounds like this to me, so it must mean this, and it connects to this. I've seen that. That's what we've seen a lot of in this case, right? But then they don't bring you back to their source. How did they get that information? So I I'm led to believe that they can't admit it directly. So what we have seen them do is try to get information in through other sources. Biggest question I had, why, and I still have this question, why was whatever shorty he is, Slime Life Shorty, being provided a Instagram to read that was not his own Instagram post? I've always asked myself, good morning, Donna, why was he reading somebody else's Instagram post? Why was he reading and getting into evidence and getting it admitted somebody else's post in the first instance? I just, but when I hear people recall the event, right? Especially if you're not watching this day by day and you just decided to come in, mainstream media says like, this guy just read this out on the he didn't read it out on his own account. He was directed to do so. I looked at the video and I saw Hilton shuffling the paperwork that the evidence that she gave him. I don't know if after they redacted it, um, which was a poor redaction. I don't know what she was doing to put that before him. You know, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but what ends up happening is that when it's cumulative, the mistakes are cumulative. It starts to establish a pattern. And that's what the discussion is these days. Now, I was listening to somebody else earlier say that they received the witness list for the week as media, and that they received the witness list through Thursday. So they felt that might be an indicator that they were still moving forward at least up until Thursday. I spent the weekend like posting on my community wall, like we're all the big mouths of this trial. And that's my take on, and that's my take on some people. The people that come out here and want to spin the narrative in a different environment. See, you can't go to mainstream media and explain to mainstream media that you have somebody that's been suspected of engaging in criminal activities. You can't sell this trial to mainstream media. Only when big hiccups come can you sell it to them and they have a buy-in and participate in spreading the information out here. The case got airwaves over the weekend due to protesters. The case got airwaves over the weekend because um, due to statements that the judge has made. The judge said, give me attorneys that know how to try the case. She didn't say, give me prosecutors that know how to try the case. She just said she wants attorneys that know what they're doing. Can you imagine sitting somewhere And this happened in this case, and this happened recently. The judge, a motion comes in and says, "Hey, judge, I want to exclude some evidence that some pictures that are about to come in. 403 cumulative, right?" Monica True, that's a quote. Ooh, what's a quote? Um, it's cumulative, right? That's what they're saying about this about the evidence. And the judge says, "Well, what exactly are you talking about?" And the defense attorney says, "Well, the ones that they want to hold on a second." Sorry, I had to take that call. Um, so you have a defense attorney, and he's like, "So I only want to admit the ones that he's gonna admit, but these other ones, I think they're cumulative, right?" So listen to what happened. He goes like number. I unmuted me, right? Yeah. So he goes like number. Want to admit. He goes like number um 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so the judge is writing things down, right? Those are the ones he wants to exclude, right? As he's looking through it. Then she goes over to the prosecution and she says, "So they don't have no problem admitting 6, 12, whatever, whatever." And she says to the person, "What do you have to say about that on the other ones that they want to exclude?" So then this person, he decides to go and read them off, and he starts with, "Well, 1, 2, 6, 3, 8, 13." And the judge says, wait a minute. Can you give these to me in some kind of order?" So he's like, "Well, judge, this is how I have them ready for my case, and they're going to admit them in my case," right? That's an example of the prosecution not able to, they're not that quick on their feet. They can't adjust to anything outside of how they have it constructed. So the judge now, she's got to sit there and listen to him. She's like, all right, so now he's going to call him out 17, 12, 14. Like he's got his own little number. So she's up there writing them down. Then you hear her. She's like, well, let me now put this in the order that makes sense. Okay, let us take the time now. She says, let us put these on the screen and look at them one by one since we can't have this conversation. That is annoying to a judge. So people have been in chat rooms talking about she's doing the prosecutor's work. No, she's trying to make sense out of nonsense. She sees their defect. They have no leadership. Even Love is, she's off her A game if anything gets thrown in there outside of the direction she wants to go in. And she's a fault maker. Anything goes wrong, she blames somebody else. It's somebody else's fault. And she's vindictive. Seeing all of this, why would people protest, right? With the narrow scope that it's in this trial, when the scope should be shut down Fulton. Their courtrooms and their jails are despicable to our community. That's what they need to be out there protesting about. Now, why do people go into the community that's impacted by the action and get no resolve? Because let us be honest, most of the people that are probably living in the communities that are impacted by this injustice, they don't vote anyway because either their rights to vote have been taken away from them or they don't see the value in their vote. Period. So when I'm looking at this injustice and I'm hearing people screaming all through the YouTube space, right? All through the social media platforms, shut this trial down. No, shut down Fulton. You got to aim a little bit higher than just one trial gone bad. Because see, that one trial, it is an example. When we had Bloomberg as the mayor in New York, one thing I learned from him, everything was a pilot program. And whenever he ran out, he wanted to do a big move. He first came into a small defined group, a study group, and he made a pilot program of whatever he wanted to spill out. We used to, I don't want to go into the differences of what he did, but we ended up having to protest against him. And I am not a protester, but I put my big thoughts and my big mouth behind saying no to him when he chose to put in place a superintendent, a chancellor to the school system that had no experience, not an educator, not any foundation in education, but you want somebody who has no background in a particular area to educate our children. That's a negative for me. In this situation, you have got a prosecutorial empire here that is just operating, in the words of the judge haphazardly. And don't get me wrong, I don't think everybody in the office is out of control. But I think that once you allow people who are the leaders to be so tainted, to be so infectious, they mess up the whole situation for the rest of the people that follow. Wrong type of leadership. They're all in their own lane and nobody knows nothing about the other lane. It's annoying to anybody that would have to deal with that mess and how they work. Nathan's Wade's salary. All right, so for my purpose, I'm going to say I'm gonna read your comment further, but I am not versed in the Nathan Wade scandal that came to Fulton County. But what I do know is this one thing stands out for me. And this is my opinion. When Bonnie Willis selected Nathan Wade to lead that RICO, I believe that she selected him because it would be her eyes and ears into what was happening. So just take it as a puppet master. I felt when I heard it, because I didn't finish reading your statement, but I'm just going to tell you how I interpret it, and then I'm going to go back to reading your statement. I felt like she made a point at that moment to be like, I'm going to insert myself in here. I'm going to put my person at the top who's going to secretly tell me everything that's going on, whom I can influence to do it my way. Ergo, looking at the case of Young Thug and this YSL trial, I believe she had the same control mechanism over it when she had Glanville as the judge and chief um DA, the chief DA that she has there. I believe that she has a a way to put her influence out there with the direction of how they're doing it. What I would have wished from Bonnie, and this is just my opinion, so that if she wanted to be that influential in the prosecution of those type of RICO, and the RICO is a tool that she's familiar with and that she's prone to utilizing, then she should have came downstairs and sat at that table while this case was being prosecuted every now and again. When George Floyd case came around and they took the case away from the local from the local and they gave it to the attorney general to prosecute. He wasn't there every day drilling down, but he was there to make it be known his office is involved in this prosecution of those officers or that officer. He didn't hide. He didn't hide his influence and ability to navigate in what was going on. And I just feel like, and he's a man of color, right? So she could have put herself more involved and came down there and put her stamp of approval because maybe she would have spoken out to her own team, because I'm not gonna call her her staff, to her own team, that we could be doing this differently, or this is not going well. But as long as they had Glanville, they felt comfortable being inept. The moment they got Judge Whitaker, their comfortability went down. Even you could see the confidence drain from love, right? And one may make an argument that the way in which Judge Witt runs her courtroom has contributed to their inability to function. They already were functioning messed up, but now they're functioning more messed up because they got somebody that's holding them accountable and the pressure's on. All right, let me go back to now. That's my thoughts on Nathan Wade. So now let me see what your thoughts on him. Hold up. And so Nathan Wade's salary could have went a long way with starting something foundational in the community. Okay. Beyond Nathan Wade's salary, the money that was allocated for gangs, if throughout the years in that county had been allocated appropriately, they would have probably gotten a better bang on their investment. Um, when they put the community police officers into the school system, they actually had their eyes and ears on what was building this gang empire that they're now prosecuting. See, I think it's a conflict of interest, right? To be in the school system, build your profile of what this gang looks like based on the stories that you're hearing openly from minors, and then come back 10 years later and try those minors as adults for things that they openly confided with you. See that Zachary guy and him being um thought being inside of the schoolhouse, and now even looking at the make look at Dennis the Menace. Would you want Dennis in your school? So I said there was a YouTuber or a social media person here, right, who decided to write the Hawks and say, hey, keep detective what's that detective's name, the lady Gaither, out of your franchise. Hello. Why not write down to Louisiana or wherever it is that this other guy is at and say, break the cycle? Keep him out of your school district with your children. I appreciate your help and your opinion so much. You keep my emotions grounded and pull me back from being mad. There's really no reason to be mad with this case. It really is no reason to be mad. And here's why. This is circumstantial evidence. At best, we've listened to circumstantial evidence. This is old stuff. The people who should be screaming for justice are the victims in this story, in the victims, the people that the case was developed around, who are, what does justice look like for them? You understand? Some Once your person is gone, maimed, I do try to, yeah, but if the goal, I wish I could pin this onto the screen. My goal is not to convince people to see it my way. My goal, as I state in my about section, is to encourage people to do their own critical thinking and to look for salable solutions to the impossible stuff. There are solutions to this, but it's not just it's bigger than that. I was watching some videos last night. Actually, I was watching videos from Thugs, Mr. Williams catalog. And one of the ones that touched me the most was there's a video of him freeing, paying for the bonds of some men to get out of jail. Right? The same system that he's caught in right now, in the same phase, with the exception of they were offered bond but couldn't afford to pay their bond to get out. And one of the men that was on the bond was accused of murder, but it was self-defense. And he was sitting in there. And I was saying to myself, Can you imagine? He looked at the problem and tried to put a solution to it with bring these people home, right? No one needs to be rotten inside of the situation. And I was just touched by that. It's a video. I'll share it on here. But I thought it made me look even, and I looked at it several times and I rewound it back to the point where they were sitting at the table eating and just watching him playing and being playful and the different things that he was doing. And even when I look at his videos that they made part of this case, right? So even though they tell us about the lyrics, and I look at the videos, I say the videos don't even glorify the negativity that they want the lyrics to say, especially the one like where Woody will get you in the noggin was the halftime and stuff like that. I just see a bunch of young men enjoying each other's company, talking very negative about us women, and or what I believe that I'm hearing from within the song, but just living life. One thing about being poor, believe it or not, is we do live life. Poor people live life better than rich people because we just live for the moment we're in. Is there a legal reason why we are not hearing from the victims or advocate of the victims? Is there a legal reason? Um, I think they protect. Well, first of all, let's just be clear. This is a gang associated case, and people are not they're not willing to come they're not willing to come out and be shown and stuff like that when you're talking about gang stuff when like once you put gang on something it automatically puts the fear of on everybody like you just be like oh I gotta break away from this because this is gang related um so no if I was an advocate which I'm not for anyone in this kind of situation, I'll be wanting to protect the identity of my of the person on the opposite side of this on the opposite side of the case. And let's be clear, some people here like Jeffrey Williams and Yak Gotti, they were making a lot of money in the industry that they chose. Victims like to profit off of other people's works also. You understand? So they look for and this is what happens in law, right? In civil law, when they go to sue people, um they can sue the person that actually did the crime, right? And then you can sue the people affiliated with it, right? So when you have a case like this and you have a thug and his other associates that are on trial that have deep pockets, right? They can sue them as third parties to the cause. So they don't have to be the direct person that caused the incident, but they could be a third party and you would sue the deepest pockets and they would be the deepest pockets that you would want to sue. So in a criminal case like this that's been opened up, right? If they are found guilty and these are people with the deep pockets. On a civil matter, people could sue them in turn for these for these same things on a civil level. Let's take a look at O.J. Simpson. He went to trial and he was acquitted of all charges against him, right? But it did not stop the Goldmans from going into civil court and filing a case against him and saying by the preponderance of the evidence submitted, he is guilty of this and financially will hit him for it. So Thug going to trial, like he said, and seeing this out and putting up reasonable doubt against what is happening, what the evidence that they're putting out there definitely helps him if somebody chooses down the line from out of the victims to sue them later to say, hey, that's the deepest pockets and we're going to go after that. He was affiliated with things. If you look at this case from another perspective, there was an NBA player. Let me see. Did they come out with a um I'm trying to think of which was the NBA player. He was robbed by Tip. Yes, you're right. He was robbed by Tip. Look how this man's whole career was upended based on a robbery. Hold up, let me find this NBA guy's name. I need to be writing this stuff down. Um, Hold up, let me get it. Yes. So let me go to this. His name was Javaris Creatin. So, former NBA player convicted of killing Atlanta mother to be released. DA trying to stop new sentence. All right. Well, some other stuff is going on with him. That was in 2023, but let me see if it's going to go back to how he got there in the first place. I'm going to need to stop playing with these court cases in Atlanta. Oh, brother. Um, Let me just, I'm gonna give y'all a poll question. Let me see. I hope I spelled everybody's name right. Now, don't go looking up the story, but all right. So he was robbed by Tick. I think it was Tick from this YSL case, right? And I think it was his jewelry. Anyway, he went back gunning for this dude all through town. And this was in the same period of time, 2015, when this happened. Let me try to find, but I want this. I want this story, so I gotta hold on to this one because this is. It appears he was being released, and I'm asking y'all, who do you think his attorney is? Um, but let me go find another article, but I want that one. All right, I think it's this one. On August 26, 2011, Creighton was charged with the August 19th murder of Julian Jones, a 22-year-old mother of four. Atlanta Police Department indicated that Jones was not the intended target. They believe that he was targeting a person who robbed him in April 2011. Now, this is an NBA player who was on the lineup, who went out here. All right, let's see what this jewelry robbery linked to ex NBA player Crit. What is his name? Critton shooting. He has been charged with the murder. A former NBA player who was accused of shooting an Atlanta woman to death appeared to be retaliating for being robbed of $55,000 worth of jewelry. Police said Jarvis, who was suspended from the NBA for having guns in a locker room, was arrested late Monday at a Southern California airport. He has been charged with murder in the August 19th shooting death of Julian Jones outside her house. Now, his attorney said that he will be exonerated. Creonton told police he and a friend were leaving a barbershop around 10:50 p.m. on April 21st when two teenagers surprised them as they returned to their car. According to the police report released to the Associated Press, one teenager held Creonton at gunpoint and ordered him to give me what you got, he told police. He said he handed over a $25,000 black diamond necklace, a $30,000 black diamond watch, an iPhone, and $25 cash, according to the report. So he was laced out. He had a $30,000 this, he got a $25,000 this, and he got $25 in his pocket. Um, Jane Robinson of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office said prosecutors expect to charge Creighton on Wednesday with being a fugitive from justice, and he may be arraigned later that day. An Atlanta police spokesman said that the turntable for Creighton's return depends on. So this is when he first did it, and he was arrested in California, and they had to extradite him back to Atlanta. But the bottom line is Jones, a 23-year-old mother of four, was outside her house with 18-year-old Trontavious Stevens when a black Chevrolet Tahoe hybrid pulled up. Okay. So you see this in one of the songs, they're talking about Tahoes. Why can't be this Tahoe right here? Why can't his song be referring to this Tahoe right here that pulled up and got at got at Tick? This was Tick. Okay. Authorities have said they don't believe Jones was the intended target, but they haven't said who they think the gunman was after. All right. Stevens told the Associated Press he had never met Creatin and wasn't involved in the robbery. I didn't know him at all, said Stevens. I didn't know he existed, and he didn't know I existed. I hadn't seen him a day in my life when he pulled up and started shooting. Creatin's defense attorney, Suggs, Suggs, said his client wasn't in the vehicle and was eager to clear his name. Brian Steele, another attorney who says he represents Creatin, didn't return several phone calls and emails Tuesday, but said earlier that his client would be exonerated. Family and friends of Jones set up a makeshift memorial for him on the side of the road where she was gunned down. June Woods, her adoptive mother, said Jones was a hard-working mother of four who spent her days working at a fast food restaurant and nights caring for her four children. She wasn't involved in any trouble. She tried to keep herself away from trouble. I don't understand why it happened. I don't know why her kids could have been outside. They could have been shot. I'm still looking for that one answer to that one question. Why? Creatin was with the Washington Wizards in December 2009 when and Arenas had a dispute over a card game. 2 days later, oh, I think that's another player. Brought four guns to the locker room and set them in front of Creatin's locker with a sign telling him to pick one. Creatin then took out his own gun. Creatin pleaded guilty in January 2010 to a misdemeanor gun charge and received a year of unsupervised probation. I think that's Arenas. Arenas answered his guilty plea on January 15, 2010. He served a short time in a halfway house. Yeah. See how the streets come into even the NBA thing. But what's interesting is that I didn't know creatine creatine was I'm gonna have to go look up how to say his name. But I didn't realize that he was a client he that Brian Steele was his attorney. Um it's amazing. Nobody thought it was Steele. Everybody thought it was the other people. Um Personally, I'm not going to tell you my favorite attorneys out of this case because I have a few that I rank very high in my regard. But in any event, um, I brought that case on to just indicate that you mean 0% pick, according to me, 0% pick still, but they thought it was Harvey or Shard. Um, at the end of the day, but for his actions, it's crazy around him. Um, I'm beginning to think that in this particular case, people have to define, and in any trial that you're looking at, right? Even if this happens in your own personal life, you have to come to terms with what justice looks like for you and not what justice looks like for people who are just observing this, people who are seeing this. It depends on what justice looks like to the people involved in the case itself. It doesn't matter what you and I think justice should be. It only matters what it means to the people that have their liberty taken, who are sitting there in the cell right now, waiting for their day in court and for some the prosecution to present a case worth defending yourself against, knowing that the burden of proof lies within the hands of the prosecution. But one of the worst things about this case is that it's just prosecuted poorly, and you can't take that away. It's an overdump on information, but you just want to believe that people are looking at this, the people that matter, which are the jurors, are looking at this with the with clear minds, and they're seeing the evidence. Um, they're seeing this for what it is, for what it's worth. Let me see. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the chat before I break out of here? Hmm, that's crazy. Um, I'm gonna go on still building my little sheet here of information and see where it leads me. But like I said, my opinion doesn't really matter. But if a case like this was in my jurisdiction, I definitely would be seeking change of the change in how the process rolls, how the process is, rolls out. It wasn't until maybe about, I think it was like 2015 when I first found out that judges got picked. When I first found out that judges like really understood how that picking process went, and how I learned how the people who run the poll at the voting here in New York. I don't know how it works in other states, right? So I'm speaking to you with a limited view of what I know about New York. New York has your center, right, that you go and vote at, falls in the jurisdiction of somebody that's like a district manager of the center, and they get to pick, or judges put their names on the ballot, but then they have meetings where they introduce the judges to the constituents in the neighborhood, because you're the one that votes them in, and then they get picked and sat. Once they get voted in, they get um sat on the different uh open courtrooms uh in the district, well, in the county. So when I lived in Queens, it was for Queens County, but I found this out for Brooklyn, because I was affiliated. I knew somebody that was in Brooklyn, and they wanted to work at the polls. So we went to a meeting of a delegate in Brooklyn to figure out how to work at the polls, right? Personally, I didn't, once I found out how to get in, I just went back to Queens where I live in, and was like with my local civic, and was like, who's running the poll, who runs the polls, and got in connection with that person, and put some young people who didn't have jobs to work the polls on that day. But in any event, they get to meet the judges. So when I was sitting on the civic board last year, we got to meet the judges that were on the ballot. They came out and introduced themselves to us, right? Basically, though, when they were presenting that they're the judge, blah, 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 and giving us their history, they were basically saying it's a done deal that they're coming in. Maybe down the road when more people figure out how this process works out, maybe it will become more competitive. But for the time being, they really didn't need anybody's vote, but it was just a courtesy that they were coming out to meet the public and let the public, it's small groups. It doesn't have any influence on what they do. It was all of the judges. It was civil judges. It was judges that sat on the Supreme Court that tried criminal cases that we that if they were on the ballot came out to speak and give us, their background in law and, you know, how fair they will be when they're on the bench. And I feel like that's the same scenario with this judge. I just dislike the fact that she has selectively um removed the media from the courtroom and that some of these fine defense attorneys that told folks that they would not let that happen are letting that happen. Uh, so we'll see. Anyway, it's not a rant, but that's my conversation on does justice matter for today. I want to thank the handful of you folks that hung out with me and those of you who came in the chat and wrote inside the chat. I appreciate it. And I will see you folks on the back end. If this case moves forward, I have some special there won't be live streams. I'm gonna upload them as videos because I've isolated different testimony and I've really spoke on different testimony. And some of it is characterized like I know I have something about being an expert, a gang expert, and a gang expert with music. Not feeling just I got something on that. I have something about the women of the Rico. Um, and I have that in two parts. I have that from a perspective of the witnesses, the women of the Rico from the witnesses, and the women of the Rico from let's just put it like this, from people that all are barred, that are attorneys. I've isolated some stuff on the women of the Rico. Because people keep screaming, "Where is Rico?" And I think it's right here in front of your face. But anyway, seeing no questions or concerns from the chat, I'm about to take it back. Next day, I'll be live on a live stream. We'll be on Thursday morning. So if you want to check me out Thursday morning, that's where I'll be. Otherwise, I'll just see y'all in the streams that cover this case as it as it breaks out. Thank you very much, Yvette, Sam Francis, Joy. There was someone else, Shannon, Donna, and Lady XO for coming and braving inside the chat and giving me your thoughts. Oh, there's a Jeff. Wait a second, I missed some people. Hold up. How do you say that? Jessica? So, for coming inside the chat and sharing your thoughts with me there and becoming part of the conversation, I appreciate the contribution. The rest of you can do what you do and comment in the comments below. If you're nice, I'll let it ride. When I say nice, I mean being respectful with your comments. Um, we can have a conversation down inside the comment section. Otherwise, like I said, I'll check you out in the other chat room. Later.